it's Lori from Common Sense Home, and today we're making up some apple blossom jelly. We have some apple trees, wild apple trees, that grow these not too pleasant tasting little crab apples that are out by the roadside, and since we live on a country road, they don't get too much dust, especially lately with all the rain. Anyway, since the apples aren't very good, we decided to take advantage of the blossoms, and Dunk and I caught them today at just the time when the blossoms were starting to drop their petals, and so it was really easy to collect them and not damage the fruit production at all because they just came right off. Anyway, we have here 8 cups of loosely packed blossoms, well, just the petals I should say, and this is going to make a double batch. A single batch is only 4 cups. And to that, I'm going to take my 8 cups of petals, and I did bring these in and I sorted them looking for any damaged petals, any bark bits, any bugs, any stuff that really you probably don't want in your jelly. It does get strained, but I don't know, ants might add a little bit of funny flavor. And this sat for a couple hours, so a couple of these got darker because I had to run and get baby chicks after I picked my blossoms because I got the call from the feed store, so that's okay. As long as they're picked and sorted, they can rest for a little bit, but you do want to get them or get to your jelly making within a couple hours of picking. So to my blossoms, I add hot water. We're effectively going to make a flower petal tea. And for my double batch, I have 9 cups of hot water, so a single patch is 4.5 cups. I'm going to tuck these in here, and goal being to get them all steeping in the water. So this might take a little bit. And these are going to rest in the water, our little apple blossom tea, for about 20 to 30 minutes. You don't really need to have them go any longer than that because then you get more discoloring and you've pretty much coaxed out all the flavor that you're going to get from this particular batch of blossoms. I've got these pretty well tucked under, so I am going to get the blossoms off my tongs. Should have had a spoon for this, wooden spoon, but forgot to grab one, and since we're already recording, off we go. And I'm going to set that aside and cover that again for 20 to 30 minutes. I also have 2-piece canning lids. You want to prep those. You can either wash them and keep them nearby, or I like to put them in lukewarm water on the back of the stove. I find I have better seal rates if I keep mine warm. You want a canning funnel, jar grabber, either lid lifter like this, oops, tongs, or the magnetic lid lifters. And I've got my jars over here in the dishwasher, so I'm going to get my jars sterilized, and I've got my canner heating on the back of the stove. So we'll be back in about 30 minutes. All right, it's 30 minutes later, and I've taken the time to strain out the petals. I use a mesh strainer, and then I line that with a flour sack towel. This one has been used many times, and so I can squeeze it out and not get any chunks in my petal tea. And so we're going to set that aside. And you want to end up with 4 cups of petal water per batch. So I've got 8 cups here. And then we're also going to prep our sugar and pectin mixes. I like to use Pomona's pectin because then I don't have to use as much sugar in my recipes. And you can find this in a lot of natural food sections or order it online. Inside every package of Pomona's, you're going to find, I'll set this aside, a bigger package, which is your pectin, and then you're going to find a little package, which is your calcium powder, and instructions for jam and jelly making. Now when you make jams and jellies with Pomona's pectin, you need to prep your calcium water first, which only takes, heck, a matter of seconds. Because one box of Pomona's pectin actually makes up or has enough pectin and calcium in it to make several batches of jam and jelly. So you prep this once with a half a teaspoon of the calcium water and half a teaspoon of the calcium powder into a half a cup of water. tuck that aside. And then you give this a stir. And then you're gonna measure out just what you need for this particular batch, which I'm making a double batch, and that's gonna use 6 teaspoons. And then the rest of this, I'll put in a small mason jar and keep it in the fridge for my next batch of jam and jelly making. And our pectin, I'm gonna open up. And you'll be able to tell the difference in color between these two. Your pectin is going to be a light tan color, but your calcium powder will be white. And I'm gonna take my pectin and I'm gonna measure that into my sugar. It's 1 cup of sugar per batch and 3 teaspoons of pectin per batch. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. You always want to pre-mix your pectin with your sugar or your honey or whatever sweetener you're using, and because that'll help keep your jam or jelly from clumping. Unfortunately, my sugar's got lumps in it, but those will come out when I put it with a hot liquid. I had this particular bag of sugar in storage for about 5 years. And even though it was vacuum sealed, still absorbed moisture, still got lumpy. All right, so we've got calcium water, pectin sugar mix, pedal tea, and I have some lemon juice back there, and we're gonna move over to the stove. I have my pedal tea in the stock pot, and to that I'm gonna add a cup of lemon juice. It's a ½ cup per batch. Remember, we're making a double batch. And 3 teaspoons of calcium water per batch, which is 1 tablespoon. So for a double batch, we've got 6 tablespoons. Set that aside. And then we're going to bring this to a boil. And once that comes to a full boil, then we'll add the sugar and pectin mix. And this will take a few minutes, and you want to stir occasionally so that your mixture doesn't scorch. And then once it comes to a full boil, you add the sugar and pectin all at once. And stir, bring it back to full boil, cook for 1 minute, and then turn off the heat. And we are ready to roll. We've got a full boil, so in goes the sugar pectin mix. And then, as I said earlier, we keep stirring this, make sure that the sugar and the pectin is all dissolved, and we bring this back to a full boil and keep it at a boil for about a minute. You want to make sure you sweep around the bottom of the pot. Don't let any sugar or pectin stick anywhere or clump anywhere. And if you mixed your sugar and your pectin evenly before adding them, that will make your life a lot easier. First time I worked with this, I just dumped my pectin in separate, and then I ended up fishing out the pectin in a big slimy ball, which was not great, and trying over again. It was not a good thing. But learn from my mistakes. You don't have to make them on your own. And I am going to give this one more quick stir, and then I'm going to grab my jars out of the dishwasher where they have been keeping nice and warm. And if you don't have a dishwasher, you can also, wash them in warm soapy water and hold them in warm water, or you can heat your jars up right in your canner. You always want to work with similar temperatures. You don't want to ever pack cold jars into boiling hot water. That's how glass explodes. Bad thing. got bubbles, yay. Checking my timer. There's a timer on the stove. I don't know if you can see it from the angle. And you want to stir this enough so that it doesn't cook down to the bottom of your pot. So, depending on your stove, whether that's cooking or stirring continuously. Oh, this looks great. We have our boiling water bath canner. When you are processing foods in a boiling water bath canner, you want your water to actually be boiling before you start your processing time. So we have a nice boil going there, and that is the preferred option. We're almost ready. There we go. I'm going to take the heat off here and give it one good stir. And turn that down and hold it at a nice simmering boil and not steam up the kitchen. We have 80-something degree temperatures in Wisconsin in May. That is not supposed to happen until generally in August. Somebody left the thermostat set up all screwy. But tomorrow the temperature is supposed to drop 20 degrees, which is more like Wisconsin. So yeah. Alright, we want to fill our jars, leaving 1/4 inch head space. Your head space is the distance from the top of your liquid to the jar lid. And head space is important because your processing time of 10 minutes sterilizes the jars and also drives the air out of the top of that air pocket above the jelly. And there is a method to the madness. I'm going to continue filling these and then get them all loaded in the canner, but I want to jump ahead here a little bit. And you always want to wipe off the top of your jar to remove any hand oils or jelly drips, and get your lids tight and finger tight, because air is going to escape out the top of that, so you don't want to crank on there. This is going to naturally seal when the vacuum is formed by the canner. And I'm going to go and fill the rest of these up and get the canner loaded, and then we'll get the first batch in, and I should have around 10 jars, so this is going to take 2 rounds of processing.
And next we're going to drop it into the water, nice and slow and steady, and set the timer for 10 minutes. Your gloves may get a little wet. Ta-da!
Timer's done. I turn that off for a moment. Grab these out. And if this is all you have, you can just take the canning rack and set it onto your cooling area. But since I'm going to process another batch of jelly, I'm going to grab these out and set them about 1 inch apart to cool. And then load up the canner again. And you don't ever want to tip your jars too much when you're taking them out of the canner, because you don't want to get that liquid jelly in your seal right now. So don't crank them way over to the side. You tip them just a little bit, but don't worry about a little liquid being trapped on top, because that will evaporate. And off we go. I'll load this back up again. Rinse and repeat. And we have apple jelly. And there's the pink. Yay! That's it. We'll do some pretty shots at the end probably. The next day. Some apple gloss. Make it look good. Alright. Thanks for watching. And hit me up if you got any questions.